too many times we get ourselves into a position where we get too carried up in the minutia of certain things. And so that's a big thing for me is leveraging technology to get back your time, because you know time is our most precious asset. So find those tools and leverage technology to get rid of those repetition and minutia tasks in your life.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, it's Agostino. If you're syndicating or raising money for deals, at some point you'll need to manage your investors. A big part to managing your syndication business is making sure that you're providing a service to your investors in terms of regular updates and streamlining your back office. Well, today's guest understands this very, very well. He started investing in 2010 while still in college with fix and flips and wholesaling. Years later, he learned about multifamily and jumped into that realm. Now, at this point, he had understanding of how to manage investors and decided to start a software business, really to help syndicators manage their own investors. Now, today, his company, Syndication Pro, helps syndicators manage investors, raise capital, and manage the entire investment portfolio online. Now, with all that, I'd like to welcome Jacob Blackett to the show. Jacob, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks a lot, Agostino. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Now, if you like what Jacob has to say, you can reach him via the contact page at syndicationpro.com. And if you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. It helps us out tremendously when you do. Finally, if you text the word freedom to 202-410-4202, you get our free ebook, The Bulletproof Guide to Finding a Broker. Okay, Jacob, go ahead and tell the listeners about your start in the real estate business.
Sure, I'd love to. So, like you mentioned, it was back in college. So my freshman, sophomore year, saw an infomercial about doing fix and flips. And I was studying finance and entrepreneurship at the time. And I ended up doing a couple fix and flips through college. And so when I graduated in 2012, I had two options. I could go probably get my CPA license and go chase up some investment banking type or private equity scheme, or I could go and do some more fix and flips and kind of do my own thing and make a career in real estate. And so I chose the latter. I actually maxed out my student loans that final year of college to get some working capital. Had about $20,000 saved up, and when I graduated college, I went right into fix and flips and wholesale deals, and did a lot of those for many years, until eventually getting into multifamily real estate, which is what I focus on now. Currently managing about 1,200 units, and through that entire process, a big part, of course, for scaling a real estate company is getting the right partners, right capital partners, right investors on board. And so through that whole process, decided early on that I wanted to manage that through a website. And so that's kind of, as you mentioned, the software company. How I got into software was a byproduct of raising capital for my own real estate deals.
Right. Well, because many of those investors, they want to know exactly what you're working on, what you're doing, what sort of returns are you getting. They have some transparency around the money that they're handing over to you, right? That's really was the big push as to why you even consider doing such a thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not a coffee drinker. And so early on, doing a bunch of coffee meetups to meet investors, it's just getting too caffeinated. I thought, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. I've got the jitters. No, I I early on took money from friends and family, right? The people that trust and love you, and and was really in the position of trying to figure out how to grow that investor network. And nothing has a better reach than a website, right? Being online and having that reach. And so that's where the website and raising capital online and all of that power came into play. And I realized that, wow, by structuring it this way, I can save a lot of time in house as well. I can create a lot of automations. There's a lot of repetitive things. The first raise you do, and you're you're answering all the same questions from multiple investors, and you're sending documents here, getting documents back there, got your spreadsheet open, tracking commitments and who's signed, who's funded, and plans, and so over time, getting those online and getting leveraging technology to manage those workflows for my own business. That I think that's where a lot of a lot of the power that comes into to raising money online.
Yeah. Now let's take a step back then. So you already had some investors with the fix and flip. So you already had like a list of people, right?
Mhm.
And then when you discovered multifamily, was that syndicating multifamily, or was that like just getting friends together? Like what was really the big push around you getting into multifamily? What was all that about?
So the evolution was that, like you mentioned, I was doing fix and flips and wholesale deals, which are very transactional, money in, money out, money in, money out, and so I was getting investors and growing my investor network doing that, and then I actually was getting a bit worn out from this transactional lifestyle of making great money, of course, but you're always looking for that next deal and to get that next windfall of cash flow from a flip or a wholesale, you got to find that next deal. And so I started looking at rental properties, and I actually met someone who had a small portfolio of rental properties, and they're making six figures in rent income, and it was like deer in the headlights moment for me, kind of like, oh my gosh. So I mean, for me, I'm making great money, but if I don't find that next flip, that next wholesale deal, I'm not getting paid. But this guy has, this portfolio, and who knows what he doesn't need to be doing anything aside from managing them, right? I think he was using third party management or something, but those checks are coming in every month. And so I actually started syndicating to hold single family home rentals. Since I was doing single family kind of fix and flips and wholesale deals, I started with single family rentals, and then it was actually a podcast that I heard related to apartments, and so I started listening to the podcast about owning and managing and operating apartments, and a lot of it resonated with me, and eventually met an apartment operator who I, at the time I had over 100 single family home rentals that I was managing and owned directly, and the guy who owned apartment buildings said, hey, you're you're going crazy here with all these single family home rentals. Just go buy an apartment complex. It's so much better. And so I took that advice and I went and purchased a 50 unit apartment. And so at that time I had kind of it's a bit of a snowball effect with investors, right? You start with your friends and family, that kind of core group, and maybe they talk to a friend or something, and maybe you start doing some marketing and branding and getting your name out there, and you start kind of, but you got to be doing deals and getting track record behind you. And so by the time I got to doing taking down my first apartment, I had already created so many partnerships on fix and flips and wholesale deals and those single family buy and hold rentals that I had a pretty good investor network set to help me take down that first raise, which was about 700 grand for a 50 unit apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. But it sounds to me like for anyone listening out there, getting a platform, putting yourself like building out your own sort of investor portal is something you do a little bit later. First, you start off with building out your network. You build out your you get some investors, start proving yourself, start building your own little brand, if you will. And at that point, you then shift over to managing it all online. Then you can start making these offers online. And then you're able to leverage that same network for when they talk to their friends. You get connection with them. You have to vet them out, of course, if you're going to follow SEC guidelines,
Mhm.
and you give them access, right? So it sounds to me like when you're managing and running a portal like this, it gives you some legitimacy, right? So there's that. That's a big
Mhm.
part of it, right?
Mhm.
But it also sounds like if you're just starting out, you're at zero. Just you know, getting any type of software is not going to be the instant hit that you're looking to do, right? I mean, this is
Mhm.
something you do when you get some legs under you, right?
Yeah, and we do. and that was a big gap actually in the investor portal software industry, is that really, unless you are managing 50 million, say, in capital, and really had a big operation going, the pricing just didn't make sense for people who were, maybe they had a deal or two, or maybe they're getting into their first deal. And so that was one of the gaps that we addressed with Syndication Pro that I eventually rolled out, was for that person who's early getting started. It's like you mentioned, it's a great infrastructure to gain that credibility. And with Syndication Pro, we focus, a lot of the product is built around that sales funnel. So we give you the tools, the sign up page, and the lead capture, and the automation to schedule calls with your prospects, and track relationships. And so yeah, we do have people using Syndication Pro, from those who are putting together their first syndication, all the way to people with 60 plus 60 plus deals, and a billion in assets under management. So it's actually a really wide spectrum.
Right, right, right. And the thing is though is that for you guys listening out there, as you are growing your business and you use a platform like this to manage your business, you're able to tap that same network over and over and over and over again as you're putting up new deals. It emails them out, gives them tells them, hey, there's a new deal on in the platform. They can log into the platform, check out your deal. If the investor's happy with it, they can invest. If not, they pass. Whatever,
Mm,
you can answer their questions. And I think something you pointed out, Jacob, is that it's all tracked. That's the cool thing, right?
yes.
So it's almost like you're managing like a little CRM there, right? So if someone says they might be in for 50 or 100K, you're able to put that into the system and it can remind you, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge part, especially as you know, Augustino, when you're going into deals, there's a lot that you're dealing with when you have, say, an LOI accepted, and then you're going to contract, and now you're opening the floodgates of due diligence, and you're tacking along that the capital raise onto that entire process. It's a lot, and as you know, you can't raise capital really until you have your PPM set, your legal docs in place, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you're trying to track, who you've got all this going on here, and you're also trying to answer the question, do I have enough capital lined up? And so that's one thing that we do through our software, is we give you the ability to post and take soft commitments, so that as you're working through that process, maybe you're not ready to really take those firm investment commitments, but you can have a call to action. You can send something out, tease information, and you can get soft commitments, so you can know, as you're going through that life cycle, that, hey, I've got 5 million in reservations and soft commitments. So when I do eventually open this up and I need 3 million, for example, I'm feeling pretty good, right? Or maybe it's the opposite. Like, oh man, I need to raise 3 million, but I've only got 500 in soft commitments. I need to make some calls. I need to, drum up some interest. So yeah, it's a tool to really help you execute uh, the syndicator.
Right, right, right. And that's the thing though too. It's like to help manage that whole function. And believe me, guys, when you're raising big money or any money for that matter, these are very, very handy things to have. I'll tell you that right now. It's as far as trying to measure out where your soft commitments are and who's actually put up the money, and you really need to know all that kind of stuff, and help, and having a system, a piece of software help manage it is a godsend. It really is. It really is. It's huge. It's huge. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that the software does. We talked about the importance of tracking your investors. We talked about like tracking some of the commitments and things like that. What on the reporting side, what all does the Syndication Pro actually do?
Yeah, as a sponsor, as a real estate sponsor or syndicator, you are managing the partnership, right? And so there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of data points that you need. For example, when it comes to filing your partnership return, right? Your CPA is going to be knocking, hey, I need these details. And so having all those details centralized in one place, so where you or your CPA could just go in and go to a report and click the partnership CPA report, and then that'll give them all their data points that they need so that you don't sit there, yourself or someone within your team kind of scraping together all these data points and trying to, put all these together. It's very clean, very concise. And so that's one example. And then another example is, of course, sharing profits and paying out dividends and distributions with your investors. And so giving yourself a nice environment where, for example, you're not tracking your investors down to say, hey, are you good with check payout or ACH payout? And hey, what are those details? And then when you're going to pay, trying to get all those details in one place, the software does that for you. So it asks your investors their preference, it collects those details, and then when you're ready to pay out, it'll break up who exactly how much should get paid to each investor, and just streamlines that entire process so that you don't spend a day, trying to get all this information together. You can just kind of uh, work right through it.
Right. Well, it's what we talked about a few minutes ago, is that whole transparency thing. When any investor can log in and see where their money is, where the asset is. I think you can also upload like photos or PDFs or whatever, with what's going on with the property this quarter. All your quarterly reports are there as well. So it makes for a very, how should I say, managed flow of information. So you're not just blasting off a bunch of emails, right?
Yeah, it's a great point, Augustino. When, for example, I have it with in my investments over 600 investments to manage, 600, and with this platform, with the portal, you're able to provide the updates, provide the information and details that your investors need, so that on any given quarter, when I'm doing quarterly updates and distributions, 600 different investments, I may have a handful of questions. And I think a lot of that is attributed directly to the platform because the investors are getting the notifications that they need to be getting. The information is there for them, what they want to know, and then all of it's stored on their dashboard for historical reference. So they don't ever have to say, hey, what was that past update? What's this update? And how much did I get paid? And all of that's right there. So it's kind of creating more or less a self-serve environment for your investors to just at their leisure, just like they would with a brokerage account or with their bank, kind of just log in and get all the details they need without having to email you and eat up your precious time, kind of answering these types of questions.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's like we said before too. That whole sense of legitimacy, like you're no longer just managing a small group of investors anymore. By the time you're getting to creating one of these portals or using one of these software systems for your portal, you're actually doing wealth management at this point. You're giving your business a sense of legitimacy, and I think that also helps in raising more capital down the road too, right?
Yeah, I mean, a huge part of those investments, maybe the biggest part is the trust, right? So creating a nice polished environment where your investor can, number one, just have get off on the right foot in terms of signing up with you and now being on your dashboard and getting details they need, and then ongoing service. I mean, we have reinvestment. Any one of our deals is typically funded 75% or more by reinvestment, right? So as long as you're doing good deals and taking care of your investors, this kind of environment and platform will facilitate that reinvestment and referrals as well.
Now, Jacob, are you able to track all the potential reinvestment funds? Is that a thing in your system?
Yeah, so all of those details are right there. So we do. I always kind of thinking of the next step, what next innovative thing we can push the platform. But yeah, you get all these statistics right at your fingertips in terms of total investments, how many investments, reinvestment, credit investor. All of these statistics are right at your fingertips.
Yeah. Well, because I can imagine, let's say, for instance, you have an asset that's selling, it's supposed to close in the 15th. and this is going to mean a windfall for you and for your investors. But if you have another deal that's closing, say, a week and a half or 2 weeks later, you may want to talk to your investors about using that capital to roll into the next deal to avoid taxes, for instance, right? That is wealth management, right? So
Yeah.
if you're able to catch that ahead of time and have that conversation with them, plant the seed, so to speak, you can then talk to that investor about, hey, you know what? Listen, you're getting a windfall from the sale of A property. We can take this money from A property and roll it into B property and avoid all the taxes. Sort of beat them to that money, so to speak, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that part is huge. And are you able to do any like video or anything else like that on the platform yet?
Yeah, you can embed video directly. So if you're doing webinar replays, of course, or flyover property kind of drone footage, or whatever type of video media you have, will fit right into the process.
That's awesome. Are you feeding it from like YouTube or some other system? Or are you guys hosting it all locally?
Yeah, typically through YouTube is a pretty good way to go about that, and it embeds directly on the platform.
Right, right, right. Excellent, excellent. Now, in terms of data safety, I'm sure that there's people out there right now, they're always worried about, the safety of the system, right?
Yeah,
You have social security numbers, you have dollar amounts, you have personal information, all this stuff. It's highly, highly secured.
yeah,
How do you guys guarantee that the systems are up and running, that the data is not going to get compromised, that maybe the hosting provider is not going to steal the steal the data and run off to an island somewhere and start charging people's accounts? Like how do you
yeah.
verify such things?
Yeah, it's the starting point, Augustino. Honestly, a cornerstone. Without following security at today's best standards, there's no point in doing it, because you y- the worst thing you could do is build a big successful business and be pinched with a security breach or something like that, right? So we use the best hosting that's available, the most up-to-date encryption. For example, we host with AWS, Amazon. We use encryption. We PCI certify through our practices. So yeah, through and through, it's really the same processes that you would get with, for example, your bank. So there's two-factor authentication, and so it's a starting point.
Nice, excellent. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Many other systems, I'm not gonna say they don't do that kind of stuff, but as a former IT guy, making sure that your customer data is safe is absolutely paramount. You got to have good, strong data protection around all that. 100%. Now, what other system features and functions does Syndication Pro cover that maybe some of the other guys just don't do?
Yeah, we go we're pretty robust in terms of the sales funnel and the sales cycle of from someone visiting your website, and maybe they were referred to you by someone, or maybe they heard about you, any number of ways, but now they're on your site. So we really focus on how do we get that visitor into a conversion, and then really building in some automation in terms of creating that relationship with that prospect and that lead, doing mass email through the platform, doing automated emails. So, for example, a welcome series. If you wanted to get a nice welcome series of emails over the next few weeks to that prospect directly through the platform, sending your mass emails through the investment process, and automating, like sending the funding instructions, being very clear,
You can
in terms of
automate
the
you can
steps.
automate all that, Jacob? Like you're basically so sort of like Mailchimp does this, right? Where you can say when someone signs up for Mailchimp or on your Mailchimp page or whatever, send out like there's the initial email, then maybe another email goes out a week later, and another email goes out a week later. You can set all that up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's
So
powerful. That's powerful stuff, man. I mean, the other guys don't do that stuff.
yeah, Yeah. So we're developing and continue to develop our goal when it comes to those marketing emails is for our clients to be able to drop their Mailchimp or Active Campaign system, and really our big vision is to host as many parts of the real estate firms operations into one place. So yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's huge though. I mean, because for many guys out there, they're managing a Mailchimp account, right? So you have that which is not integrated with, typically not integrated with the system, with the other systems they might have. I mean, they could
and
maybe,
and
uh,
we do.
yeah,
So that's another point, is we can integrate the data within our platform to pretty much any application you use. So if you love Mailchimp or you love HubSpot, or it's part of a bigger scheme, we can integrate, two-way sync those details through and through. So that's a big point.
yeah,
And another big point is collaboration, right? Real estate deals, especially the bigger the deal, and the more deals you do, you meet colleagues, and you do deals together. And um, so a big part of our platform is opening up the accessibility for partners and co-sponsors, and being able to have relationships on one deal with different firms coming together to do a deal together. We create that, which is really no one does it the way we do it. We sync offerings to our different to our different firms platforms. The offerings talk to each other, and 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 sync that real time data, so everyone has just a really unique environment to manage their part of the deal.
that's awesome. I mean, because it sounds to me then like as your business continues growing, if you say want to hire on or bring on a say an investor relations type of person or investor sales type of person, they're managing it in a CRM type of environment where they're able to communicate on a regular basis. You can track all that communication. I mean, it's remarkable. So yeah, again, some of the other systems just don't do that kind of stuff. They don't have that type of integration. It's huge. Oh, love it, man.
I think the big differentiation, Augustino, is I have been doing this since 2012, raising capital online. I've just closed out yesterday my 19th syndication. And so I live and breathe this, and we're, I think, always on the forefront of innovation, and bringing the next level features that really good technical teams and web developers, they can make some good apps and some good software, but without someone doing this, and being in the industry, and it's really hard to stay innovative, and deliver on features that really resonate with users. So I think that's one of our big competitive advantages.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing though, Jacob, is that because you've done this for a while now, and you're a syndicator yourself, you'll often think back and say, "Man, what that's a pain. What if we did X, Y, Z instead, or what if we fixed it like this instead?" So it's kind of like you're applying your experience into the actual deals, where some other folks. I'm not saying they don't do that. We don't know. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but I'm sure that the things that you're encountering are making their way into your technology,
It,
which is phenomenal.
yeah.
That's good stuff. That's
Yeah,
good.
it leads the product. My experience directly on every time I do a raise myself, I'm always thinking, what is that next edge that we can polish? What's that next step that we can take to make this a better experience for the investors and for ourselves? And then with our clients, I'm able to, when a client does have an idea, a fellow sponsor, a real estate firm, I walk in those shoes, so I can take that in, and work through that, and really create innovative ideas and approaches to this.
Nice, nice. I love innovation. That's my thing. So
Yeah.
excellent. Now, if you had that one piece of bulletproof advice for that person listening right now, what would you tell them?
So if you find yourself doing the same task more than once, think about how to automate it in the future, how to leverage technology to never do it again. Uh, I think too many times we get ourselves into a position where we get, too carried up in the minutia of certain things, and so that's a big thing for me is leveraging technology to get back your time, because you know time is our most precious asset. So find those tools and leverage technology, to get rid of those repetition and minutia tasks in your life.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Jacob, reach him via the contact page at syndicationpro.com. I hope you got some insight on how you can leverage an investor communications platform to help build your business. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast.